Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with SpeakEasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are back for a brand new episode with an awesome guest for episode 43. So, cannot wait to get into this topic with this guest today. Bob Goodwin joins me today. Bob, welcome, and how's it going today?
Hey, David, I am so honored and pleased to be with you today. Thank you.
Absolutely. We've been keeping in touch over the months and finally had an opening for you. So I am thrilled to have you on. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So for those of you who are new to this podcast, welcome. My name is David Noe, and I started this a little over a year ago, and it has been just a great, exciting journey through this. I don't know if I'm having network issues or not. Am I a little choppy on your end, Bob, or
Well,
no?
good on my side.
Okay, then it's just me, so I'll keep going. So, we have the new blog is out. This blog is about connection. I do a weekly blog at speakeasyhr.com. So you can go out there and see all the blogs before this week, or you can subscribe and see all of them coming up in the near future. So, Bob, for those of you who have not seen your work or have known about you, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of the work you're doing at career.club.
Yeah, thank you, David. First of all, again, thank you very much. It's really fun to be with you today. I appreciate the format that you've created here at school. No, so my background, just to be kind of super brief, has been in sales and marketing, primarily in consumer insights, market data, things like that. So if people know companies like IRI, NPD, they're now called Circana or Numerator. I spent the last 20 years or so in that space. It's been really cool. You're working with major brands like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola, Samsung, Walmart, top class marketers, which is very fun. And I was leading sales teams and other initiatives at those different companies. And so that's kind of part A. Part B is I've got a heart for job seekers. I
Yeah.
like to network as you do. And when you're a networker, you end up meeting people in job search because they're actively networking. And
Yep.
people are like, well, call Bob. He's nice. He knows a lot of people. And you do that a few thousand times and you start to see some patterns. And what became really clear to me like a long time ago was a job search is a big sales and marketing exercise. And if you're not in sales and marketing, and a lot of times, even if you are, you don't really recognize it for that. And so my epiphany with a little e was how to bring together sales and marketing principles to help job seekers. So in 2021, I left my corporate job at Numerator and started Career Club with the intent of helping job seekers, which is what we do today, but also doing executive coaching because I also find a lot of those same principles apply to people who are in seat today, but looking for a little bit more career guidance. So that is hopefully the 60 to 90-second version of me in Career Club.
No, I'll have to give you a quick little my new toy that I've gotten from the last couple of months. So get a little air horn for that.
Thank
No, that
you.
was great. And I'm curious, Bob, if you can, from the people that you have interacted with from a job search perspective, how many would you say you've interacted with over the course of your time doing that?
Thousands.
Thousands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Does any specific person like stand out to you? Like that person is one that I will always remember.
Wow. What a good question. Um, Oddly, I don't know why I'm remembering this one person just in the heat of the moment, but yeah, there was a lady that I helped named Julie who very shy, very reserved. Um, One of the main observations with people in job search is oftentimes they don't like quote selling themselves because it feels like bragging.
Yeah.
And credit to a lot of people, they're humble and they don't want to come off as cocky or arrogant or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The problem is when you're selling yourself, you need to be selling yourself. And
Yeah.
so uh, one of the things that I advocate is doing direct outreach to companies. So not just waiting for the job description, the job posting, on LinkedIn or Indeed or wherever, because to me, as a salesperson, that's like an RFP, a request for proposal. And
Yep.
every salesperson I know hates RFPs because you're not in control of the process. You're subject to some black box that you don't have any control over, and you get to the back of the line. Gosh, that's what a job posting sounds like to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so as a salesperson, I'm like, I am not going to be dependent on RFPs. I know what I'm selling. That's me. I know my quota. It's one. I only need one new job. But I have to build a pipeline of opportunities, and I need a prospect list. I need a territory like to go after. And so what we teach people is how to do direct outreach to companies, irrespective if there's an opening or not. So bringing all that back to Julie, this was like so out of her comfort zone as to be like from a different planet. And I see your y'all sign back there. Sometimes if you say down south, you got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And she's just like, whatever I'm doing isn't working. I'll jump off the high dive, Bob, and try your way. And she did direct outreach, and it was very genuine. It was very sincere. It was also very well done. And she reached out to a company, and even just through their general mailbox, wasn't even to an individual, which I normally would not recommend. And the managing director of this insights agency got back to her and was like, I love what you wrote. Like, we don't even have an opening right now, but like, you sound like a terrific person who gets what we do, has the right cultural fit for us. And I'd love to talk to you. Lo and behold, she had a job offer in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So that just makes me, it's like anybody can do this.
Yeah.
If you determine that you don't want what everybody else is doing, you want to do something different. Yep. And that for me is also the definition of a brand. Right? A brand stands out. A brand doesn't do what everybody else is doing. If you do what everybody else is doing, you're a commodity. And that's a race to the bottom. And I don't know many people that want to engage in that, yet that's what we tend to do in job search.
Absolutely. So for those listening live on LinkedIn and YouTube, you may not be looking for a job, but in the future you might. And so hopefully this insight from Bob can help you in the future. You can go back and watch this on demand. I did join the podcast community that Bob also is familiar with, Work Defined. You can go out to workdefined.com and check out all of the podcasts out there. There's over 50 now with HR, payroll, all kinds of topics in our world of work. So check that out if you haven't. Definitely have been able to connect with some of the folks on there, the hosts and everybody in there. So definitely go check those podcasts out as well. So, well, thanks, Bob, for sharing a little bit about your background.
David, if I could just make one little quick point. Even if you're not in job search, a couple of things. One is you could be tomorrow. Yep. And the things that we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, could apply almost instantly. Yep. But even if that doesn't happen to you, which I pray it doesn't, this is really about career management and developing your personal brand. And so, at your current company or a future company, what are you known for? And how do you articulate the value that you bring to the company? And so this is a very strong bit of proactive medicine that you can take so that when somebody's figuring who to promote, right, or who to let go, your name's on the promote list, not on the let go list, because you have intentionally managed your career and people's perception of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. And for those watching, listening live on LinkedIn and YouTube, throw out a question if you have it. Someone else might have the same exact question. I did see one of the viewers said all good from here. So the connection is good. It's always fun when you're trying to do it live, right, Bob?
Well, live television.
It is.
You get what you get.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just a one-man show over here. So I don't have anyone else to bail me out if I have a problem. So, all right. Are you ready to play the world famous envelope icebreaker game? Brand new question.
Whether I am or not, I think we're going to do it. So let's go.
All you got to do is pick a number 1 through 15. I'm going to give you a few seconds to pick that number.
7.
Wow, that was fast. Hold on, I got to
Yeah,
do my
I'm
transition,
reading
Bob.
I'm reading Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So I think the number seven's anchored in my head a little bit.
Okay, well, let me play the transition because you were really quick to that. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
All right, maybe it played. I think it played.
I still choose seven, by the way.
You're not changing number 7. All right. Bob goes with number 7. These are brand new questions, so if you haven't watched at least the last couple of weeks. Okay. What's a random skill or talent you have that people are always surprised by?
Let's see, random. Oh, okay, I know. Um, I'm kind of a crossword puzzle savant.
Okay.
And if you're looking over there is the
Yep.
New York Times crossword puzzle for my date of birth. So that was a Christmas present one year, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so I love doing crossword puzzles. There's always a strategy to kind of figure out, like trying to
Yeah.
crack the code. There's something going on here, and you're
Yeah.
trying to figure that out. And then I like that. And then I also like the part where you take the bits that you do know to figure out the bits that you don't know.
Yeah.
And so, it's very iterative. And I found that, my work life has kind of mirrored that crossword puzzle solving mentality. I like
Yeah.
to figure out what's going on in the market, where, how do you connect the dots? And then the other bit is just have to try something. Just go, and you'll start to figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Right. But I think we're generally going in that direction. I do know a little bit. Let me at least get that down, and then I'll figure the rest out as I get there.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. All right. You got one more number other than 7.
Oh, dude, I was so happy with that one answer.
All right, we can go the lightning round if you want. You want to go the lightning round?
Sure.
This is all just fair game. So I'm gonna take you to the lightning round. Hold on, I got to pull that up because that's a whole different beast here. See if I can click that on here. All right,
Here we go.
here we go. So I'm gonna spin it. These are 5 questions, a little bit more speakeasy vibe.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's gonna maybe come up with something about. Let's see. What do we got here? All right. What's your go-to speakeasy cocktail, real or made up, Bob?
Oh, an old fashioned.
Old fashioned. It's a great answer. Very good. Any specific uh, bourbon that you'd use?
And I can see in your background, you're a connoisseur. I am not. I'm a slob. So it's like whatever their basic brand is, I'm probably okay with that.
Yeah, it's all right. Very good. Well, I'm gonna have one quick minute so you can grab something to drink or whatever, take a
Okay.
breather. This will be a couple of messages from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners, and then we're gonna dive into your topic, Bob. So these folks that are listening will, and I will as well, learn from you and everything that you know about this, the 4 C's. So 1 minute, and we'll be back to it.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
All right. There we go. Took a minute. So if you are in the market for new technology in your company, big or small, we work with a wide variety of industries, company sizes. So look us up, payrollpartners.net. Would love to just analyze and figure out what you have right now and if we can be of any help. So definitely look us up, payrollpartners.net. Henry, Thanks for the message. Henry is right with you. Bob and I, just the old-fashioned easy way to go. So it is very hot in the Midwest right now where we are, Bob and I. It doesn't seem to bring us 90-degree weather every day. So a cold beverage is definitely sounding pretty decent after busy days. So, all right, Bob. So we're going to get into your topic that, just like every other guest I connect with and talk about coming on Speakeasy HR, because I feel like every time I have somebody on, I learn from that person, our audience learns. And so we came up with this as a topic, the 4 C's for career success. And so as you've obviously evaluated how people are finding jobs and everything that you've seen and evolved with this, what really inspired you to really get into this kind of work and bring this topic to the podcast?
Yeah, to quote a pastor friend of mine, people are doing the best they don't know how. And, job search is pretty chaotic for people. People are not professional job seekers,
No.
one. And, while technology, to give a nod to your sponsor here, like, while technology is helpful, it's not everything. And, so people struggle with articulating what their value proposition is. And to make it easy for folks, you help a company make money, you help a company save money, or you help a company mitigate risk. Those are kind of like the 3 main value levers. And helping people understand how they contribute to one or more of those value drivers is really, really important. And so, but what I found, I told you that, I was networking with people, and I'm like, well, what are you looking for, David? Bob, that's a great question. Well, that's not a great answer. Like, if you don't know what you're looking for, that's like asking for directions and where do you want to go? I don't know. Well, then I don't either. And quote the Cheshire Cat, if you don't know where you want to go, any road will take you there. And so, helping people, like, but what is your brand? Like, who are you? Like, what do you do? What's the most common question? David, tell me about yourself. I was just on a call right before this, and a lady was saying that she had an interview, and the very first thing the interviewer said to her is like, who are you? Wow. Okay. Like, you need to have thought about that answer before you're doing live interviewing or live networking. Yep. And so what I did was I came up with a process based, a lot on the marketing principles that I've learned to help people articulate their brand. So unless you want to go in a different direction, maybe we can just start diving into that.
Absolutely. Because I think brand is so important. And I think myself and I think everyone else listening would love to hear more about that. So let's get into that a little bit.
Okay. So everybody's watched the Super Bowl. Everybody's seen Super Bowl ads, and everybody's seen really good ones, and they've seen really bad ones. And they cost the same amount of money either way. So, right. And so the analogy is that, when someone has lost their job or they're motivated to go look for a new role, everybody says, well, you need to network, David. Like, that's the main thing. Like, you need to network. You need to apply for a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn. And people get very busy doing stuff. For me, that's like airing a Super Bowl ad, but your ad's not very good, right? It's like you're in front of a lot of people. You are definitely making an impression on people, but it may not be the impression that you want to be making. And so my advice is press pause, go off air for a little bit, to put it in ad speak, get your creative right, then you're ready. It is very sequential, but it feels like, Bob, I'm not doing anything. Like, this is like, what am I doing? Like, I need to be, don't you know, I got rent to pay, man. Like, I gotta be doing stuff. And the way I say it is, sometimes we need to slow down to hurry up. Sometimes you need to slow down, build a solid foundation before, and it doesn't take weeks and months to do all this stuff. You can do it, over the weekend if you're diligent about it. Yeah. But if you don't do some of this basic work, you are not going to like the outcomes down the road, and they will just magnify themselves as time goes on.
Right.
I know you like golf, so think about if you're just hitting the ball, off 1 degree off the tee, 300 yards later, like you're in another fairway, right? So the more you kind of get something that isn't working for you perfected, that's a problem. That's called a bad habit.
Right.
So we'd rather kind of get everything right before we take the club back, instead of wondering, why do I slice or pull the ball all the time? So here's the thing. We speak about the 4 C's. So just to get into it, the 4 C's are, in order, convictions, and I'll break that down in a second: convictions, clarity, confidence, contagious. And so the very foundational level here is convictions. Who are you? What do you actually believe? And sort of the constituent parts of your convictions are, what are your values? Like if you had to write the United States Constitution for you, like we've got the same Constitution from 250 years ago. A lot has changed, but the Constitution is what it is. It's had amendments along the way, which is fine, to adapt to changing circumstances, but the core of it is the core of it.
Yep.
And so, whether it's, what are the things, what are the values that you would be willing to be fired over? Like you're asking me to lie. I'm not going to do that. You're asking me to be away from my family too much. I'm not willing to do that. You're asking me to do whatever. Like, this environment is mean. Like people attack each other, and we call it all in the name of honesty. No, that's just mean. And like, I'm not willing to be around that. That's not in alignment with how I want to treat people. Those kinds of things are values. You can go online, and everything from free to $25 are things that will help you assess what your values are, because it's not something that we think about all the time, but we should. And so values are kind of like things that you genuinely believe in and would be willing to pay the price to stand up for.
Right.
Second thing is, what are your strengths? What are your God-given abilities? And so I'm a big fan of StrengthsFinder, because again, they tend to be durable qualities that will be true about us today and 5 years from now.
I've got it right back there, Bob.
There you go. Come on. So it doesn't depend on your job title, your income, the cool brand that you work for. It's like, this is how I am. This is how I was made. This is, what I like about Clifton Strengths is you can do like the top 5 for like $20, and you'll know your top 5 in 20 minutes. And it's amazing because kind of 2 things tend to happen. One is, wow, I never thought of myself that way. So there's a bit of enlightenment.
Right.
And then 2 is, it gives vocabulary to it. Like I always kind of felt that, but I never knew what to call that.
Yeah.
And so now I've got words to be able to describe it. Back to creative for your commercial. Like now I know how to talk about this in a way. And oh, by the way, that's non-braggy. So for me, strategic is one of mine, which that sounds very, highfalutin, like, well, I'm strategic. Well, I don't know, David, if you're familiar with StrengthsFinder, but one of my top 5 is strategic. And what that means is, so now I'm pointing to this third party thing. It's not me saying this, it's what StrengthsFinder says about me. So what are my values? What are my strengths? What are my passions? What do I care about? Like I care about helping people do this. I care about this kind of technology. I care about company cultures that look like this, whatever. And I kind of try and stop short of using the word passion, because that sets a pretty high bar for people. Like, I don't know if I'm passionate about it, but like, what do you care about? What are you genuinely curious about? What do you read about because nobody's making you read about it? Things that you're generally interested in. And then kind of 4 and 5, and this is all just under convictions. One is your track record. Look at your resume. Like you've got accomplishments on your resume. We drove revenue 27% year over year. I made President's Club. We cut expenses. We cut turnaround time. Like whatever some of those accomplishments are that you've got on your resume, that's a body of evidence of making an impact at your company. Again, back on saving money, making money, and mitigating risk. So that's a body of evidence. And then lastly is, what are your colleagues? What are people who know you well? How do they describe you? And so getting some of that feedback from people, you can go and look at former performance reviews. We'll sometimes have that, particularly if you're in a 360 degree review environment or have been previously. For people who are actively looking and you're doing networking, David, I know it's been a couple, 3 years since we worked together. I'm kind of working on my own personal brand. I want to ask you a question. When you have seen me operating at my best, what does that look like from where you sit? And shut up and let the person talk. And so we've got now for convictions, values, strengths, passions, body of work, feedback, 5 really kind of tangible things that I can start to say, this is who I am. This does align with, who I am and who I want to be. So that's convictions. Moving on.
Can I stop you real quick, Bob? Can I just tell everybody out there, I look at resumes all the time. I'm trying to fill jobs with our company, right? I want to see accomplishments and not a list of job responsibilities with every single job. If you didn't have an accomplishment in a job, just summarize what you did and not list 40 things that you did in your job. Because I just all day look at resumes and all it is their list of job functions.
Okay.
I know what somebody does in an accountant role, right?
Let's build on that, David.
Oh my gosh.
There's 2 things. One is I massively agree with you. And so it's interesting only to the extent that it gives me a notion of the scale of and scope of your responsibilities. But here's kind of the unsaid thing. People get fired for not doing their job description. Right. They do, right? I mean, I used to be the director of marketing at XYZ company. I'm not there anymore. Why? Because I didn't actually deliver on the stuff that's in this job description.
Right.
That's one. 2 is, I wrote an article one time that says, adjectives are not accomplishments. Adjectives are not accomplishments. I'm a strategic thinker, creative problem solver, comfortable in the C-suite, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what any of that means. Did you help us sell more stuff? Did you help us save money or time? And did you help us mitigate risk? If you did one or more of those things, I'm interested in talking to you. If you didn't, I'm not. So, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, convictions lead to clarity. And what clarity means is what to say yes to.
Yep.
And maybe more importantly, what to say no to. And having clarity is very freeing. It's very liberating. Because where people get very stuck in job search is trying to guess the other person's right answer. Mm-hmm. What does David want me to say to this question? And that takes a lot of energy. It doesn't come across very sincere because you can kind of pick up this lady didn't believe what she was saying to me. And it also helps you know what the target looks like. So there can be a lot of good yes answers. There's not a one life partner forever. There's only one job out there for me. There's lots of good jobs for you. What you want to be able to know is, what does a bad job, what is a bad environment, what is a bad boss, what is something I'm not going to find fulfilling, what is something that doesn't play to my strengths. Like, I need to know those things. Something like, it's a fine job, it's a fine company, it's just not for me. But you should talk to my friend Henry. He's amazing. I think he'd be a great fit for a role like that. So clarity is also back to brand building, because I told you this is all kind of born out of marketing principles. Is we all know Tide, the brand, right? And we know exactly which aisle in the grocery store, Walmart, to go find Tide. But Tide could say, whoa, don't pigeonhole me. Like, cleaning is my thing. I can clean your car. I can clean your carpet. I can clean you. I can clean your clothes. That's analogous to people saying, well, Bob, I don't want to be pigeonholed into like something because I've done operations and finance and sales and marketing, and they just start listing every function that's known at a company. The problem is, and the intent is good. It's like, well, I don't want to miss an opportunity. The problem is you go in the junk drawer of people's minds. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with you now because you're like the Swiss Army knife spork thing that I don't know what to do with. And what do we do with things we don't know what to do with? We put them in the junk drawer. And then you kind of hope you don't ever go in there again, because that's sort of the last place you look for, like, I don't know, man, maybe there's one of those in here. And people don't go to so you actually disable people being able to help you in networking, and you definitely disable them from hiring you, because your value proposition and their understanding of what you do and what you're good at and why you want to work here is so fuzzy that they don't do anything with you. So that clarity like actually helps you massively in the other person's mind, but you have to recognize it does come with a bit of a cost, that you're willing to say no to some things with the malice of forethought. Does that make sense?
So with your 4Cs, I'm curious with them, do they turn into good questions to ask a potential employer in a job?
Let's get there. Yes, they do. And let's get there in just a
All right.
second.
I'm just trying to connect the dots with your vision on this, Bob.
No,
I appreciate that.
We're almost home. We're almost home, I promise.
I appreciate that. No,
so,
you're fine.
but we spent a lot of time on convictions.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand that part, the rest of it doesn't work. So convictions lead to clarity. Now I have a clear picture in my mind of me, what I want, and why that's good for me, and also what I don't want and why that's not a good fit for me.
Right.
Here's where the switch gets turned. Is clarity leads to confidence. Confidence. Now, confidence is not cockiness. Confidence is not arrogance. Right. And one of the, if not the most common thing, but definitely one of the most common things that we hear from job candidates is, but it feels like bragging, and like, I don't want to sound like I'm not humble. And it's like, totally makes sense. Nobody likes cocky or arrogant. Right. Nobody wants an egomaniac. None of that is attractive. So that's a good thing to be afraid of. It's just not appropriate here if you're going through this process, because my definition of confidence, and this is probably the one thing that I want people to write down, it is evidence-based self-belief. Evidence-based self-belief. Well, what's the evidence? Let's go back to the convictions piece. Yeah. These are my values. These are my strengths. This is what I care about. This is my track record. This is my reputation. Those are all, they exist on their own. They don't just exist in my mind. And so that's the evidence. And so now it's like, and particularly because of clarity, I'm not trying to guess the right answer. I'm not trying to pretend. I'm not trying to pose anymore. I'm just being me. And I have a very clear understanding of me, where I thrive, where I don't. And so now when we're confident, we sit up straighter, our eyes are more open, we smile, I'm waving my hands, like we modulate differently with our voice, because we actually believe what we're talking about. If I ask you about your son and his golf game, you don't need notes. Like, you can just sit there and talk to me because you know this and you believe it, right? It's the same thing when somebody says, well, David, tell me about yourself. I'm like, so glad you asked, right? And you're ready to go and you believe what you're talking about. And it's all because we've done the preparation work of knowing what, so it is all coming from a very authentic, sincere, well-prepared way. And confidence, and here's the 4C, and then we'll get onto your question. The 4C is contagious. Confidence is contagious. When you believe, you make me believe. And by the way, the interviewer wants to believe. They've got a role to fill. Right. They want to say yes to somebody. Help them say yes to you, because you're coming across as appropriately confident instead of stuttering and and your voice gets kind of quieter. It's like, you don't believe what you're saying. But when you do believe, you make me believe, and that's being
Exactly.
persuasive, and that's who gets the job offer.
Exactly. So you've got conviction, clarity, confidence, and contagious.
Amen. Good student. Yes.
How about that?
So, how does that help you answer questions in an interview? Is there, or ask questions? What was it, David? How to ask questions or answer?
I think the convictions part, because I struggle when I interview people. I rarely say, "Oh, that's a great question." It's, what are the hours? Is it a hybrid role? Why is the job open? I don't ever get somebody that really. It's rare that I get someone that asks questions about, like, what are your values? Like, what is your mission as a company? Like, I think the convictions part that you talked about, obviously someone's strengths, they can see if they would fit in this role, the passion and the values, but from alignment from the employer and the job candidate for that position, like what within that part, can somebody ask just one general question that will help them understand, like, I do care about the values of a company. I want to align myself, so I see myself here in this role, in this organization, for potentially years, and not just quitting in
Okay.
the next six
No,
months. Does that make
it's
sense?
great. And first of all, the statement that you kind of started this off with is, you rarely hear this. So when you do, it's distinctive, it's memorable.
Yep.
And again, that's what a brand is. If
Yep.
everybody else is this a hybrid role, kind of stuff, like, really, like, but when you say, David, it's interesting because I was researching the company, and I saw that one of your values that I aligned with very much in my own life was to make the world a better place. I was wondering, I would love to hear an anecdote of either personally for you, your team, the company, where you feel like that really came to life.
Right.
Nobody ever
Well,
asked that question before. It's like, wow, you did your research. Went on the website, I
yeah.
saw this, or I remember when I interviewed with Brittany, one of the things that she shared with me was this company value of um, challenge, decide, commit. And I would love to hear that's how you've experienced that value here at Payroll Partners.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, like, you're actually paying attention.
Yeah. 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 So you talk about personal brand. I think that is such an important piece to this, and it's just a different way of thinking about it when you're looking for a job. If you've never thought about that, I hope this is going to trigger a different way of your overall mindset in your job search, whether it's happening today, like Bob said, it could happen tomorrow. You'll have to start looking for a job. So, you know, in your journey, Bob, looking at it, what's maybe a piece of advice you wish you had earlier in your career that you now know?
Yeah, I think it's what we're talking about. Honestly, so many people's careers are like a pinball machine,
Yeah.
and you graduate from college, however it is that you enter the workforce. Somebody pulls the plunger back, and the ball's in motion. And after that, it just tends to bounce off the last thing. And like, well, why do you work there, Bob? Well, my old boss called me. Well, did you have that company on your radar screen before? No. Do you align with anything they do? Not necessarily. Why do you work there? Because Chris called me. Right. Which is like being thumped by something in the pinball machine, and bounces you over there, and then it bounces you over here. And we never actually sat back and thought, what do I want? Right? What fits me? What's in alignment with my convictions? Right? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And so, I would say it wasn't until fairly later in my career that I'm like, time out. Like, I'm not sure how I got here, and I'm definitely not sure if this is where I want to be.
Right.
So I want to call time out and reassess. It's just giving me joy. It's just taking advantage of my strengths. When my career is over, am I going to be proud that I make rich people richer, or am I going to be proud that I, had a meaningful impact in other people's lives? Like, which one do you want to be, Bob? And so I just wish that, I had a little bit. And look, I get people have bills to pay and college to pay, and
Yeah.
all the stuff that's real life. And I want to temper these comments so people don't mishear. Like, and particularly in the current environment that we find ourselves in, like people need to work. This is a fundamental life thing that we all need to work, that creates money, that helps us support our families and everything.
Yeah.
Having said that, like, make sure that where you are is in alignment with, when it's all said and done, it's where you want it to be.
Yeah. You talked about networking and how that plays a role in your job search as you go through your career, and constantly network. I think it's important. But how about mentorship? How does that play in career growth?
A couple things on networking, just to make a couple points. People in job search oftentimes come to a networking meeting with very low self-esteem. And because it's kind of like I'm begging, and it's alms for the poor. And it's like, no, 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 no. Like, this is two adults, peer to peer, talking to each other. And one of the best ways that you can reframe this in your mind is, my goal in today's call, my networking thing, is I want to find a way to help David. That's actually my stated objective. Is I'm going to share with him what I'm doing and what I'm looking for, and that's all fine. But if possible, I would like to find a way that I could be of help to this other person. That is so empowering. What that implies is I have things to offer too. I have assets. And when our self-esteem is so low, we feel like, I don't have anything to offer this guy. Like, what could I do for him? Find out, ask. Again, it's a very differentiated behavior that will set you apart in the other person's mind. It needs to be sincere. You can't read from a script. Oh yeah, David, and well, how can I be of help to you? Right? It needs to be genuine. But when it is, and even if the person's like, thanks for asking, Bob, like, nothing like immediately comes to mind, but I really appreciate you asking. They remember that.
Yeah.
They do. So one other thing I want to say about networking, treat networking like an interview. You are asking me to put my brand on you. And so if you're like, hey, I saw you're connected with David Noe, is that an introduction you can make? I'm like, maybe, but like, I don't want David calling me up. I'm like, dude, what was that all about? Like, why did you introduce me to that crazy person? Like, well, they asked, so I said yes. No. I'm going to filter who I put my name on.
Right.
So treat every networking call A as an opportunity to help the other person, and B, you're asking them to put their brand on you. So do not go to networking things, calls, meetings, coffees, like, this is just networking. This isn't the game. It's the game. It's just a different phase of the game. So treat it seriously. Mentoring. This will not be an original thought. Probably nothing I've said today is an original thought. But the idea that the mentorship, it works in both directions. I think the traditional understanding of mentorship is old person talking to young person, and providing all this wisdom and guidance and stuff. Whether it's understanding Gen Z, understanding technology, just understanding anything that might be not part of your world, but is part of what's going on in culture, again, technology, whatever. Like, be a listener. Like, there's things that you can learn too if you're the quote mentor. But I strongly recommend that people identify somebody that they can go to, and like, who's got wisdom, somebody that you can trust, somebody that will not betray your trust.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that within your company, outside of your company. I've got people that I definitely consider mentors who like, I need to talk to somebody that I know cares about me, knows what they're talking about. I need both of those things to be true. And it's like, hey, I just messed something up. I'm really confused. Hey, I've got an idea I'd like to bounce off of you. There's a really good book. The guy's name is Pete Schramm, and he wrote a book called Pathfinders. And the concept behind that is developing a personal board of advisors. And so again, a lot of what we're talking about is being very intentional with your life, of which your career is a part of it. And in Pete's model, you're building out a personal board of advisors who serve different roles. So it's not just all people you like. It's not all just people that make you smile or laugh. It's like somebody will tell you the hard truth, somebody who's a technical expert in something, somebody who will mentor you. By the way, there's a difference between a mentor and a champion. A champion is speaking on your behalf when you're not in the room. That's different than a mentor. So anyway, Pete's book, Pathfinders, is really, really good. And it doesn't matter if you're just graduated from school, new to the workforce, or you've been working for 20 years. It's never too late to get a map and to start figuring out, am I where I want to be? And if I'm not, how do I get there and who can help me?
Pete's going to be a future guest on SpeakEasy HR. Just throwing that out there. So
there you go. You're welcome, Pete.
Glad you brought him up. So for leaders and managers in an organization, how can they better support career development within their teams currently?
How can they better support career development within their teams? One is to want to.
Yeah.
Two is to make time for it. I've got this relationship with Sherm, and Johnny Taylor and I do a podcast called The Work Wire. And one of the things that we talked about not too long ago was this notion of the great flattening, which is the carving out of middle management in corporate America. And there's not a CEO, on record who isn't trying to lean into stripping out middle management. The problem with that is that people experience the company through their manager, right? And what's the expression? People don't quit companies, they quit their boss. And a lot of times that's very, very true. And so with the great flattening, when they're removing layers, you've got at least one of two things happening. One is you've got now a new boss who's never been a boss before or has never had any training in it. Gartner and Sherm both kind of tout numbers that say 50 to 60% of people managers have had zero training in how to do that. My career is in the hands of somebody that has never been trained in this. That doesn't feel great. Or, so that's one thing that's going on. Another thing that's going on, and it could be both of these, is that their span of control just greatly increased. They had 8 direct reports, now they have 16. It's very hard to keep up with 16 people's career aspirations.
Yeah.
Right. So realizing that that's potentially a constraint for somebody is your boss may not either know what he's doing or have the bandwidth to do it or some terrible combination of both of those things, which is, again, why we need to assert ownership to our careers. But as a leader, what we want to really find out is what is the intrinsic motivation for somebody? Like what really drives them? And how do I help them tap into and get this job as best I can, aligned with how they're intrinsically motivated? And what's intrinsically motivated mean? Not money, not title necessarily, which are exterior things, and recognition, which may be part of what motivates somebody, but ultimately those don't fulfill. Like, how this is. Like you get a raise, it's fun for the first paycheck, and then like it kind of loses its sizzle. It's like, I deserve that anyway, right? And that's just your new normal, and you're on to the next thing. And it's like, but I gave you a raise like 8 months ago. Dude, I forgot about that, 7.5 months ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so finding out, like, if it's important to David to be able to have mentoring opportunities, at work, I want to create those for him. If it's important for David to have a mentor, I want to make sure that he's getting that. The difference between leadership and management, leadership is, finding out what motivates the person, inspiring people, like, helping think like, what's the bigger thing that we're doing? Management is just processes and like looking at spreadsheets and things like that. And anybody can tell me, Bob, you're 97% of goal. Like I can read the spreadsheet too. Like that's not super helpful. So, but that tends to be what managers do. Yeah. Leaders kind of see the human being first and the work producing unit second. Yep. Managers tend to look at the work producing unit and really kind of can't get past that.
What are 2 questions everyone should ask in an interview?
Why do you work here? What makes you stay working here?
Love that one.
Yeah. And I would go back to like a values question.
Yep.
Tell me something, a personal value of yours and how that aligns with here and how you've seen that come to life.
I never hear people ask this, and I always try to tell people this is one that I typically would suggest. It's who's my manager? What's their style of management?
I love
And
that.
and being able to understand, like, if I'm going to work for you, Bob, I may love the company, whatever it is, the brand of the company, but if you make my life just miserable every day, and I could have avoided that by having a conversation in an interview. Now, people may not be like very upfront and honest in an interview, but I would hope that the person interviewing, if it's not the manager, if it is the manager, they can at least give a little insight on his or her structure of the team and how they manage them and what their development of the team's like. So, again, you may not get the answer that's going to make you say, "Oh, I want to work here," but it's going to make them think like, "Oh, it's a good question."
Two thoughts on that. That's a great point. So, you know, I was talking, not to go back to Johnny Taylor, but to go back to Johnny for a minute. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. And, are you good at what you need to be good at? So that's the proficiency thing. Are you culturally aligned with us? Right. So
Yeah.
values consistent, culturally aligned with us. And then he brought up what you just brought up, which is, and do our work styles mesh? Right.
Yeah.
I need to know how you roll, because if you're like a slacking at 10 o'clock at night kind of guy and you're expecting a response from me, I'm not going to respond to you. Like,
Right.
I'm just not. And if that's an expectation, we should probably talk about that. But you made me think of another bonus question, and it's a really good one, which is, how can the person who's successful in this help you succeed?
Hmm.
Right. So if I'm interviewing with the hiring manager, how can I, in this role, how do I help you succeed? Wow, you're looking beyond yourself to help me. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And again, you'll find out what's really important to them, and you
Yeah.
can shape answers and additional responses. Now I know what this guy's hot button is,
Yep.
and I can shape my answers. But it's like, wow, that's an interesting question. I don't get that very often. So,
Right. Very good. No, I love that. So, Bob, I think I got through all the questions I wanted to ask. If anybody, obviously watching live, has a last minute question, throw it in the chat section. I did want to give you a quick few minutes to talk about your career club corner for job seekers. This is a free offering, correct?
yep. So one of the things that I have learned over the past 4 years with Career Club is that people who are in job search, rightfully so, kind of start going into survival mode, and they're very mindful of the money that they spend. And you know one of my passions is I want to help people who are going through job search, because I know how emotionally, financially, psychologically, hard, socially this is for people, and I don't want money to be what gets in the way. So last year we started doing Career Club Corner, which is a group call. It's free. It's every Monday at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah, we've had over 800 people register for it just this year. And it's meeting a need for people that need quality insights, they need encouragement, they need community, while still honoring their concern about, I need to mind my pennies right now.
Right.
And so you've got a QR code on there, and maybe on the show notes, or however you want to do this later on, we can do the URL as well. But also,
Yep.
if you just go to career.club, there's the ability to link on to register for the calls as well. Every Monday, it's an hour. Bob gives about a 20-minute sermon on some aspect of job search, and then it's live Q&A. And you can ask anything that you want about your job search, and we'll try and help you as best that we can. Always free, no selling. The only call to action that is at the end of the call is refer a friend. We just want you to refer somebody.
Yeah. That is great. I'm so glad you do that. There's obviously people out there like you that do this kind of stuff, but I know it's difficult for some people to maybe get to a in-person career search forum, through their various communities. But definitely take a look at Bob's work. Connect with him on LinkedIn if you have not. And Bob, I really appreciate your time. You were a wealth of knowledge. I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to this and dive into what maybe I may not be fully taking advantage of if I'm going to be looking for a job in the future at some point. Everybody, listening to it will probably be looking for a job at some point, or my kids. So I want to, help them too.
There you go. Well, and again, whether you're looking for a job right now or just want to maximize your opportunities in your current role at your current company, all these principles apply because you're a brand at your company right now. Whether you know it or not, you're a brand at your company. And so this is all ultimately about having the future that you want for yourself and for your family and the legacy that you want to leave when you're done working.
Absolutely. Jessica, thank you very much for tuning in today. Glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And, appreciate the words. So, all right, Bob. Well, hopefully the weather cools off a little bit for us in the Midwest soon, and we can enjoy the fall. But thanks again for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully we'll talk soon and keep in touch. And I know we'll be going through, the next few weeks of going into a holiday. So if people are traveling, going back to school, like my kids are, I know it's a big transition for everybody over the next couple of weeks. So I wish everybody the best. And Bob, we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you so much, David. It's been a real pleasure being with you. I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'll be back live in, I believe, September 8th. So I will see everybody then. And until then, have a great few weeks, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you all.
See ya.